warranty. So this phone is kind of special because UHappy is a very new competitor in the market, and it's basically planning to be another like Xiaomi company, a company that has totally come out of nowhere and is just trying to dominate, and that's really exciting to see. So you can see the design is totally unique. I mean, it's literally like nothing I've ever seen before. Although it looks kind of ordinary from the front, as soon as you flip over, it's really quite striking, and I have to say I really love the design. The phone is really quite slim, to be honest. The buttons feel nice and the chrome accents just work. I really like the feel of the back. Even though it is a plastic, it's probably as nice a plastic as can be, although it is slightly less averse to fingerprints than I would like. We also have quite an interesting looking camera on the back with a single LED flash. So this is an 8 megapixel camera with a CMOS sensor, and to be honest, this could really mean anything. Megapixels really don't mean that much anymore. You've seen some really awful 8 megapixel phone cameras and some really good ones, for example with the iPhone 6, so it's really hard to tell. The keys on the front are backlit, which is cool because firstly they're very visible and also they just disappear when you don't need them, so they're not very distracting. So the screen is pretty interesting. This is a QHD panel, so it's 960 by 540 resolution, and I have to say, although it's lower than I'm used to, it's still pretty sharp and very colourful. So moving on to the features. The camera is pretty bare bones, I have to say. The app is basically stock Google, and it doesn't exactly blow us away with the amount on offer here. Having said that though, the actual picture quality is kind of good. I mean, it's about as good as something like the Moto G, which is a phone that is about 1.5 times as expensive, and so in terms of the budget phones, this actually does pretty well. So now let's try the speaker. Okay, so although it is a mono speaker, it actually has a surprising amount of detail. It's got pretty decent bass and a solid but not spectacular volume. So one of the things I thought I'd point out is I didn't particularly like the keyboard. It kind of feels a little bit cramped, but it's not really because of the screen size, it's just because of the keyboard itself, so I reckon that if you change it, it'll probably fix all of that problem. So another really cool thing about this phone is it's a dual SIM phone, which means that you can actually stick 2 SIMs at the same time, and you can just automatically switch between them depending on which region you're on, so it'll automatically reduce your tariff. Okay, so the battery we have here is a 2200 mAh poly lithium ion battery, and so this actually means you get surprisingly good battery life. I'd say on an average use I'm getting about 8 hours of sort of on time, which is pretty good. Admittedly, I do keep the brightness quite low and Wi-Fi mostly off, so your own usage will vary, but I have to say I was impressed. Now in terms of performance, the whole phone is really nippy. Whether it's doing anything, you're just flicking between wallpapers or you're browsing the web, everything seems to work surprisingly smoothly, and I think this is a combination of lower screen resolution, pretty powerful internals, and also Android 4.4 KitKat. So in terms of benchmarks, this thing scores well. I mean, for the price, it's punching way above the belt. I mean, this is actually rated as a high-end smartphone by Antutu, and considering this phone costs £60, I mean that's the price of a few big textbooks. It's really not a lot of money, so you're getting pretty good value here. So moving on to 3D games, as you can see this one here, Subway Surfers, runs absolutely fine. It's actually a smooth 60 frames per second. Now this is a fairly demanding game, but it's not exactly top of the charts. The phone struggles with games like Modern Combat 5, running them at about 20 frames per second. But on pretty much all 2D and 3D games, the actual phone runs them fine. So yeah, I was quite surprised at the performance here, and the games look really good. So again, I wouldn't be too concerned about the lack of resolution here, because you may notice it to start with if you're coming from like a 1080p phone, but I think for most users this is absolutely fine. Okay, so now my conclusion. So I was really excited to review this phone, and I have to say I was not let down one bit. So although the packaging was fairly average and the accessories included were pretty sort of bog standard, the actual phone itself does stand out from the crowd. So it's actually got a really nice design, and to be honest I have to say the whole build is way above the price point. I'd say this is the kind of build I'd expect from maybe a £200 smartphone, a sort of mid-tier phone, and yeah, there's absolutely no creaking, it feels light, it feels strong, it's exactly what I wanted. So in terms of features, there's a lot on offer here. Not only do we have dual SIM, we have a large capacity battery. The camera is sort of probably a little bit better than I would have expected, and the speaker's quite a lot better. I mean, clearly we're missing features like 4G and the next generation of Bluetooth, but those are non-essential when it comes to this price point. So performance is really fast. I mean, except for power users, this phone is going to suffice for anybody. I was surprised for the price, and to be honest, I'd say almost any Android user just wanting to sort of start the platform is going to have an absolutely great time with this device. Anyway guys, thanks for watching.